Yes, welcome back to the Magic Sponge podcast, a miracle cure for all your rugby league injury issues. I'm Brien. I'm the guy behind all the NRL Physio content you see on socials. My co-host, James, you're here. Mate, we're probably going to have a whole bunch of listeners tonight just to hear us wallow in our sorrows. I think people will think that we're wallowing in our sorrows for the performance of our respective teams in round 23. But we're actually wallowing, which isn't a surprise. Well, it's a bit of a surprise for us this year. We've been pretty healthy this year, but last year was a bad one for us. Mate, yesterday I was all geared up to go to the footy with the girls. We were home alone. My wife had gone out for a day, and so we're like, yep, let's go off to the Dolphins, all geared up. And I don't know whether it was gastro, whether it was food poisoning. I'm not sure, but it hit me and one of my daughters, and I was not good at all. So I actually missed, funnily enough, missed the Finns game. So I think it was almost my body protecting me from further hurt going all the way into Suncorp and seeing that absolute shellacking. But it sounds like you're the same, mate. We're on the same cycle, mate. Where our households are both not doing well.
Yeah, we're synced up together again, as we usually like to do, Brian. We're sort of off the back of just daycare germs in our house again. So we've got, a combination of like stomach acid and like half digested food all through the house. It's pretty crook. So we're not having many people around for the next little bit of time. So we're sort of nursing our wounds. So yeah, the running joke has been, oh yeah, the Amy Park sniper who sniped all the hamstrings made me so sick that I passed on some illness to my son. So yeah, the Broncos, they were a bit down on their luck the other night, so it's gonna be tough sledding for them to make the 8 because it's getting very, very congested on the table, Brian, and a few teams are half shitting the bed as well, as can happen at this time of year. It can happen this way, like the Sharks really didn't make any inroads there. The Finns obviously got shellacked the other night by the Roosters, so it's gonna make that final sort of 6, 7, 8 position very, very, very squeezy, so looking forward to that. Hopefully, we can sneak in, but I'm not as confident as what I was last week, I've got to say that.
Yeah, mate, I'm sure the vomiting probably started on Thursday night with you, like vomiting all over everywhere once once that third hamstring went down. So yeah, no, not a good week for many reasons in both of our households. But anyway, we're going to have to battle on and cover a few injuries. There are a few injuries. Lots of really good questions tonight, actually, because there's a couple of longer term guys that we've got to run through on a few different topics. So we'll get cracking. Guys, we are on YouTube. Everywhere you get your podcast, check us out on there if you want to stare at our beautiful faces, but we're not looking our best today. I must warn you. We are your one-stop shop for all things injury analysis in the NRL. We cover in-game injuries, review all the big injury and rehab news, and especially at the moment, loop it all back to Supercoach and fantasy because it's head-to-head finals time. You're trying to jump up and down the ladder. Those little injury tidbits, they can be the difference between, a big score, a score and a small score. So just trying to help you find an edge over your league mates. Without further ado, let's get into it. Straight into it, the injury wrap for this week, which is brought to you by Pain Pod, drug-free pain relief anyone can use.
I don't know exactly what he's done. I would have thought it was an ankle, but I'm just guessing. He shouldn't be out for a long period of time. I'm no doctor. We have to wait for the scans, obviously, but that'd be more positive than negative.
HIAs will kick off round 23, Brian. So the names we've got on the list tonight are Siua Wong from the Roosters, Tamari Martin from the Wars, Jake Trbojevic, who's a repeat name on this list from the Manly Seagulls, Phoenix Crossland from the Knights, and then lastly, Brian Kelly from the Titans. Who do you want to chat to there in more depth, Brian?
Mate, big week on the concussion front. I think the two names that jump out straight away are Tamari Martin and Jake Trbojevic. Tamari, for more historical cases, he had obviously retired. That was the official announcement back. I can't remember what year it was, but he had 3 years out of the game, 3 years out of the game because he had a brain bleed. He has had one documented concussion since he was back in the NRL, which he came back from in, I think it was 3 weeks. So, look, I think with him, you can't count your chickens. Like, he is more likely than anybody else, to require an extended recovery just purely because of his history. But yeah, just one that could be 2 weeks. It could be season over. You just don't really know. And same situation with Jake Trbojevic, who's the other one we're going to talk about, especially this being his third concussion of the year. I mean, the last guy we had 3 concussions in a season was Alex Twal. From memory, he had 3 last year and that ended his season. There's some conjecture as to whether Brendan Piakura has had 3 as well, so I'm not really sure what's going on there. But yeah, with both of these guys, I mean, the other guy, Siua Wong, was category 1, so he's definitely 11 days. Crossland and Kelly, less, I'm not quite sure on those. But yeah, I think with Martin and Trbojevic, they're more than likely looking at multi-week recoveries, which is a big blow for both of those teams with where they are on the ladder at the moment.
Yeah, most definitely, Brian. So we'll move forward to the Storm v Broncos. So on the list tonight, Adam Reynolds, Ezra and Selwyn Cobbo, they've all been hamstrung after the week just gone. Case of rugby league thighs, we like to say on the Magic Sponge here, Brian. And then lastly on the list is Jack Howarth from the Storm, nursing a groin injury. He was ruled out pre-game. Sounds multi-week, doesn't it, Brian?
Oh, yeah. So Jack Howarth kind of came out of nowhere, obviously a training injury. So, yeah, he'll be gone for multiple weeks is what Craig Bellamy was saying. So, yeah, a spot there for Joe Chan, apparently, not my boy Kane Bradley, which is disappointing. But yeah, so there'll be a spot in the back line for multi-weeks. There, look, mate, the big story for the week, the triple barrel hamstrings for the Brisbane Broncos. So, yeah, first time I've ever seen that, both on the same play, both starting halves, yeah, just crazy. And then Cobbo to go later in the game as well. People kind of asking, is this anything how does this happen? Is this anything to do with, conditioning, all that kind of stuff? Look, I would tend to lean towards a conditioning or an issue with that if it wasn't during a play of maximal sprint for me. Both guys were required to turn on a dime and just go for gold. And that is just if an ACL, if a guy's stepping and you see his ACL go, you're like, yeah, okay, that's when they usually happen. But if it's really innocuous, if it's something where I wouldn't usually expect a hamstring to go in that kind of setting, I'd be a little bit more sus. Now, obviously, both of them going on the same play is just crazy, coincidence, unlucky, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, I don't think the Broncos have been too bad for soft tissue injuries so far this season, not as much as say a Souths or something like that. So a group of them in one game, I'm not overly concerned, in terms of, the Broncos are just going to have a bath of hamstring injuries moving forward. Adam Reynolds sounds like his is grade 2, so 3 to 4 weeks. I think with him, Reynolds, he's a bit like a Josh Dugan of the old days where Dugan used to go off all the time. Adam Reynolds goes off, at different times with different injuries, and they look really bad. And then they end up not being too bad, because I had a lot of people comment and say, oh, he looked like he was the worst of the lot. He's coming back at 3 to 4 weeks. I think the big thing with Ezra and Selwyn is both of theirs were high up on the hamstring. And as we've spoken about in the past, they just tend to require historically, a lengthier recovery. So a grade 1 that's mid hamstring or a bit lower down versus a grade 1 a bit higher up. The higher up one's always going to take a week or 2 longer. And so for both Ezra and Selwyn, they're looking at 6 weeks plus is what the Broncos are thinking, which is just a massive blow. James, before I throw to you, I had heaps of questions on hamstring injuries. Are they increased? So they are actually up a little bit this year. It's really hard to kind of know which number set to go off. I find the most accurate one is hamstring injuries that have caused missed game time, because I find if you go hamstring injuries that haven't caused missed game time, there's so many unreported ones, how many in the preseason, all that kind of stuff. So if we go by missed game time, at this time last year, there was 56 hamstring injuries that have resulted in missed game time, and there's 66 this year. So that is an increase by 10. Now, it's probably not enough for me to be oh my God, it's a, hamstring epidemic or something like that. We'll see how the rest of the year goes and if this continues, but it definitely is up this year. I think we had a real sort of flux of them at the start of last year as well. There was big carry on with hamstring injuries and those kind of things. So yeah, I think it all tends to even out in the wash over time. People ask, how are we going to sort these out? What are we going to do? At the end of the day, the rate per 1,000 hours, which tends to be a pretty standard measurement across all sports to try and get injury risk and that kind of thing. the rate per 1,000 hours of hamstring injuries in the NRL is not all that different compared to sports like the NFL, to AFL, to soccer, to those kind of things. It's just hamstring injuries happen in field sports. Now, if you want to have a bigger discussion, you could start to go like, we're trying to push players to get bigger, faster, stronger. We're then trying to change the rules to, make fatigue like really, really, in the game. And then, like I was even talking to a guy who works in pro sports in and around the NRL and rugby and those kind of things. And as he was saying, like, you've got things like getting players bigger, faster, stronger, changing the rules, but then you're also introducing like a soft cap for the support staff. So you're limiting the spending that clubs can do to try and even things out, obviously, and not have clubs, some clubs have really good medical departments versus others. But yeah, then you've got those limitations in how much support, you can provide to your players from a medical standpoint and a performance standpoint as well. So, I mean, there's those kind of discussions, but I think, yeah, looking at the NRL as a whole, it's not all that different to other sports. It's, as you say, it's just part of rugby league thigh, like tennis elbow. Tennis elbow happens, elbow injuries happen in tennis, hamstring injuries happen in rugby league, they happen in field sports, and they're not happening all that much more increased. They were actually more increased in the 2010s. In the 2010s, there were mega numbers of hamstring injuries. So we're not too bad at the moment. Mate, how are you feeling as a Bronx fan with those injuries? It's a massive blow. I mean, yeah, I think Reynolds is probably a chance to come back before the end of the season, but it sounds like Ezra and Selwyn could be season over.
It's going to be tough to cover. So, yeah, Madge's going to have to do something there to pull a couple of rabbits out of the hat to find a way to get the boys winning games. But yeah, no other comments on the hamstring incidence rate, Brian. Now, I don't think is there more ball in play? Is there higher intensity when the ball's in play? We don't have that data in front of us, so it's hard to sort of just say, oh yeah, that's what it is too. There's been a lot more wet weather games this year, maybe compared to last year. Is that a factor? Who knows? It seems like we're watching a lot more wet weather footy at the moment, and even just in the last couple of weeks gone by. But yeah, we can't really draw any sort of conclusions from this at this point in time. So it'll be a bit of a watch and wait, so to speak. What we might do next is move on to the Knights versus Panthers, but no names on the list there. So we'll go straight to the Manly versus Canberra game. And the name on the list tonight is Lehi Hopoate with a shoulder injury. He was ruled out pre-game, which is a bit of a bad one for Lehi there, and the Seagulls. They're really struggling to stay. Well, they're just staying in touch, but they need to win. They need to win bad.
That's why they put Tommy Trbojevic at fullback, mate. Our boy.
That's
Get
right.
him back there.
Yeah, got some meat too. I was like, oh, okay, we might be on here.
I was up.
Wasn't
You
too.
should have seen me. I was up and about, having traded him in.
I would have imagined, yes. Yeah.
And then
I mean, I was too in my heart of hearts,
yeah.
let's be honest.
Then it didn't get any better from there. I think that was about as good as it got the entire game. But it gives me hope moving forward, James. There's always hope. Lehi has been apparently playing through an AC joint injury. So he it's minor to moderate. They were hopeful he'd be back next week. So it sounds like either next week or the week after. Just a risk of aggravation moving forward, especially if he goes back to fullback and he's on kind of those sweep plays, which we've spoken about in the past, where the center or the winger shoots out and whacks them. That's probably the biggest thing. So hopefully that shoulder isn't quite 100% and he goes back out to the wing to protect him and leave our boy Tommy Turbo at fullback. But yeah, I think if you're a Lehi got you should expect him back either next week or the week after at this point in time.
Yeah, nicely summarised there, Brian. Next game was Dragons v the Sharkies. So we've got 3 Dragons on the list tonight and 1 Shark. So Moses Suli from the Dragons with a medial knee injury. Max Feagai with a groin injury was ruled out pre-game. Michael Molo from the Dragons was ruled out with an ankle injury pre-game. And lastly, Oregon Kaufusi from the Sharks was ruled out with a calf injury pre-game as well, Brian.
Yeah, nothing on the 3 guys ruled out pre-game. Unfortunately, we just got nothing on the severity or the nature of those injuries. Moses Suli looked like an MCL. He was kind of saying he had an MCL injury last year that was 1 to 2 weeks on minor MCL, and he was hopeful it felt fairly similar. My main hesitation is the fact that the medical staff felt looseness in the knee. Usually, if it's only a minor MCL or ligament injury for that matter, is it's going to be sore, but it's not going to be loose. That tends to be a grade 1, whereas a grade 2 partial tear, you're going to have pain. You're also going to have looseness as well. So I'm worried that he's got the fact that they didn't put him back out there because they said the knee felt a bit loose. I'm worried for that kind of grade 2 to 3 injury, which would be multi-week, like, 3 to 4 at least. So, wait for the scans on that one. But just to explain to you the thought process to the listeners, what goes through my brain.
Yep, nice one, mate. So next one was the Finns versus the Roosters. A bit of a spicy game, this one, wasn't it? This game of footy. But we've got some really interesting updates on Tommy Flegler and his nerve injury recovery update. And then for the Roosters, we'll just talk briefly about Egan Butcher with his shoulder concern to start with, Brian.
Yeah, so he looked like he was struggling with that shoulder again at times throughout the game. Copped another knock where, if you remember, we spoke about like AC joint injury concerns at the time. I think it was last week or the week before. So he finished out the game. So it just shows you those AC joint injuries. You can aggravate them. Sometimes you can stay on. Sometimes you need to come off, get a needle, go back on, these kind of things. It's just the unpredictability around those. So he'll have to keep playing through that. Mate, Flegler with the nerve recovery. This is exactly the update we wanted to hear, that he's obviously had some nerve conduction tests, some muscle tests, and that nerve is waking back up. It's firing more. Fantastic news. Exactly what you wanted, because what we've spoken about in the past is that you can see consistent improvements. So say the nerve starts at 10%, it's tracking 20, 30, 40, 50. It might get to 60%, be tracking really well, and then it just flatlines. That's how these kind of recoveries go, is that they're just not super predictable. So the fact that he's seen continued improvement is fantastic. I do think, and this is coming from somebody who would love to wax lyrical about Tom Flegler coming back, being awesome, and doing well for the Finns. But I think a lot of the coverage kind of being around, he's back, he's definitely going to be round 1 next year. It's all clear. Like all the posts and the articles I've seen are kind of going on that narrative. The most important part of the update that we got from this is that there's still more checks to come in the preseason, I think. And it comes back to what I was just saying, where you can see that consistent improvement and then all of a sudden it can flatline. So I think either way, and we've spoken about this from a couple of months ago, is that it sounded like they were going to have a crack no matter what, in that it kind of had gotten enough improvement where it's like, okay, even if it stays here, we're going to have a crack and see how it goes. He won't quite be at 100%. We'll see if we can, put a, shoulder guard on or something like that and try and protect it as much as we can. So I think either way they're going to have a crack, but whether that's like round 1 next year, whether they leave it till, round 6 or 7 and build him up to that, try and get more recovery out of that nerve, it's still a bit unpredictable. I mean, the most likely outcome is that he gives it a crack at round 1 next year with at some percentage. I doubt it's going to be 100% by what they're kind of saying at this point in time, but it's going to be at some percentage in terms of his shoulder. But as he said, I think he said in the interview, he's like, look, you can go out and have someone fall on your leg and break your leg and then you're gone anyway. So it's just weighing up that risk versus reward and the risk of, doing further damage to the nerve, losing feeling in his shoulder, like, the types of things, like worst case scenario is like a Simon Dwyer kind of situation where you have that full loss of function in that limb. So look, like, obviously that's rare, very, very rare worst case scenario, but that's kind of what they're tossing up, is what is the risk of that. But just be a bit measured. I'm very excited, obviously, with the positive update, but certainly not this. I think the coverage so far has been very definitive, or it should just be optimistic.
Yeah, nice summary, Brian. I think for the nerds playing at home, yeah, if you wanted to look into, how fast stuff regenerates or recovers, if you're looking at neural sprouting, there's a few good things you could read into about how long that process does take. And it does take a long time. Like, it's really, it's a far more than 12-month process for a lot of these things to happen. So, yeah, if you are playing along at home and you're wondering why is this taking so long, well, your nerve tissue takes, it's probably the slowest healing stuff in our body, Brian, isn't it, when you're looking at regeneration rates and recovery rates and things like that. So it's one that you need to keep in mind whenever you hear this stuff. About a better player playing contact sport as well. That's really important. Next game was the Warriors versus the Bulldogs. So Stephen Crichton was a shoulder injury in this one, Brian, and Wayde Egan was ruled out pre-game for the Wars with a shoulder concern. Any updates on Wayde Egan? He's important to them, to the Wars, isn't he?
Yeah, so he had the concussion, had the week off, but he's dealing with an AC joint injury. So all the same stuff that we were saying about Lehi Hopoate. He'll be back either next. Well, they were kind of a bit more uncertain, especially with him playing in the middle. Like, got to make a lot of tackles, so his risk of aggravation is higher. So it's probably why they're being a bit more cautious with him. So he could be back as soon as next week, but it could be 2 to 3 weeks. But he'll just be quite a high risk of aggravation moving forward. Stephen Crichton had the try scorer's mechanism, mate. When he scored that try, he went down, arm outstretched, came up really clutching at the shoulder. Didn't look as bad as like an Isaiah Yeo, for example, but there could have been like a little shift there, little bit of a sublux. So nothing to be too concerned about at this point in time. I don't think it's as bad as an Isaiah Yeo kind of situation, but just something if he keeps scoring tries and which he probably will, he's an absolute gun. You might want to tuck the arm under the wing rather than reaching out too much.
Yeah, fair call on that one as well, Ryan, but he's a worldie, so he's probably going to get some meat. Titans versus Rabbitohs was the next one. Almost a spoon bowl type prospect this game, wasn't it? But Euan Aitken was ruled out pre-game with a hamstring injury. Campbell Graham's been ruled out with a back concern pre-game. Sounds like that might shut him down for the year too. Mo Fotuaika was listed as illness as the reason he withdrew from the game for the Titans. And then Alofiana Khan Pereira was a hamstring injury to this one, Brian. So, yeah, a few things there for the Rabbitohs yet again on the Magic Sponge.
Yeah, I'll just knock over Khan Pereira. Look, he's a high-speed guy, so you're always going to be a bit cautious with a hamstring injury. So I'd be thinking at least 3 to 4 weeks for him, even if it is minor, which it did look like, hopefully, but hard to tell just from the mechanism. Mo Fotuaika illness. Euan Aitken, he's been dealing with that hamstring issue for the last couple of weeks that we spoke about. I've got a suspicion it's coming from his back because he's playing through a hamstring issue, which is just very rarely see that if it's a true muscle strain. So, and he's had those back injuries in the past. They're hopeful he's back next week or the week after, but obviously just an increased risk of aggravation. Campbell Graham, they're actually going to shut him down, which apparently he was pushing. But yeah, Wayne said during the week that, they've discovered what the cause of, so they're obviously going through a few diagnoses in terms of trying to figure out what exactly was the source of his problem. They gave no details on that, but they said, we've kind of found the source and we're just going to shut him down. So I don't know whether they've found you would have thought if it was a disc, they would have found it pretty quickly, right? Like I'm surprised that they've kind of, I'm not really sure. That's a bit of a weird one in terms of what would have taken them so long to kind of figure out. And now they're deciding to shut him down. Whether they just kind of didn't scan him for a while and then have eventually scanned him and found a disc herniation or something like that, I'm not sure. And then interestingly, just off the run sheet, but he said Cam Murray is still looking to come back, but where it was kind of the first time last time he got interviewed on it, he was like, very positive. He was like, look, if that's what Cam wants, for, a reward for his hard work, then we'll give it to him, blah, blah, blah. Whereas like in this one, Wayne was like, he's looking to come back, but we're still tossing up like risk versus reward for that, which I found interesting, a bit of a change in messaging from Wayne. So, I mean, we've spoken on this, like, I don't understand the reward. I really don't for Cam Murray. Like, I just think if he goes out there and does something and it disrupts like his prep for next year or something like that, just Rabbitohs fans would be just marching on, is it Heffron Park or that they would just be absolutely ropeable. So, and I'm sure the team would be ropeable too. So yeah, I just don't, especially after winning today. I think maybe that gives them a bit of breathing room potentially, but I just don't see it. And then, mate, I don't know if you saw, which just before we throw to the injury stuff, I've never seen Wayne publicly bag a player like that comment against the Lewis Dodd. Did you see that?
No, I did. I missed that.
Mate,
no.
it was something rank. It was like it was describing it, and it's like, it was something like, did you get that signing right? And he was effectively like, no, we didn't get that signing right. And then he said something else about, it's either this or it's his talent. Like, you figure it out. Like, as if to say, like, he's no good or something. And like, whether he is or not.
There's probably a bit of layer to that, Brian, because I think Demetriou signed him when he was still there.
Right.
So I think that might have been pre-Bennett, I think. where it
But
sort of
I've just
came to
never seen
be.
him. I've never seen
No,
him bake a
and it's
player
it
like
it
that
it
publicly.
might be tied into that being like, well, it
Yeah.
wasn't my decision. Like, I wouldn't have done something like
Oh,
this. But,
man.
Wayne did recruit Joshy Schuster this year. So,
Yeah.
he's not sort of hitting home runs everywhere, is he? Like, so it's easy to cast aspersions when, you're throwing all the stones. But anyway,
Yeah.
it's an interesting one to sort of come back to there, mate. That's for sure. On Campbell Graham, just while we're on it, stressies, maybe? Is that the
Yeah.
reason why it might have been sort of a later occurring thing or not as
Potentially.
obvious to start with?
Mm.
So maybe they MRI'd him and maybe they were like, oh, actually, like everything from a neuro point of view and a disc point of view doesn't look too bad. And maybe they ended up CTing him and maybe they got a better visualization of a stressy. Maybe that might be the reason why they might shut him down as well, where they're like, oh, we could get him through or manage it. Now they're like, nah, gotta get Barley done and get 2026 sorted. So I don't know. That might be just with one thing for Campbell Graham. That might be sort of maybe a bonus stress reaction there, perhaps. But yeah, fingers crossed with him. He's got to do some luck for the injury front, Brian, isn't he? For Campbell Graham, he's had a rough run. Eels versus Cowboys was the last game here, Brian. So 3 pre-game roulettes here for the Cows. So Viliami Vailea with a foot injury, then Harrison Edwards and Tom McHaley with knee concerns here. I don't know much more info than that, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, the Cows gave us absolutely nothing as per usual. So
Shock.
unfortunately, yeah,
Yeah.
like so I wish I could give you something here, but yeah, I like to be fair, I haven't watched the post-match presser with Todd Payton yet. So if I missed something there, I apologize. But other than that, I even went to the lengths of watching the pre-match presser that he does and yeah, gave nothing away. So yeah, just nothing there, unfortunately.
Yeah, we're not going to get much from North Queensland, are we? Not well received in those circles either, Brian. So even less chance of getting good information. All right, that's a wrap up of the NRL. We're going to quickly talk NRLW, Brian, because there's a few names on the list here this week. Sort of seems like a bigger casualty ward than weeks gone by. Jamie Chapman was an ankle injury. This is a pretty significant injury that she sustained, fairly high impact mechanism there. So pretty concerning there for her season. The next one was Pauline Russabale with a hamstring injury. Maddie Bartlett was a collarbone injury. Taylor Preston had a knee injury. Ash Quinlan with a knee injury. Tegan Dimmick with a foot injury. Tyler Amatel with a shoulder concern. And then last week, there was a really interesting video you put up for Margot Vella with a multi-ligament knee injury. So that was ACL and MCL. So we do shout out Margot Vella because in the NRLW last year has one of the best nicknames going around in Maggot. So that was all time. And that's one that's, non-forgettable, so to speak. So yeah, really bad news for Margot Vella, mate. That's awful news.
Oh, mate, but for her to, I think also like want to shout her out and obviously hope she's doing okay. But for her to play like 16 minutes with
Oh,
the torn
insane.
ACL, MCL post match, they said, "Oh, we think it was, they thought it was just a minor MCL." And to be fair, like I look at that mechanism and it's not a textbook ACL mechanism, right? It's a textbook MCL mechanism. It's in the wet. She slid. You often see those end up as a groin, like an MCL sprain, something like that. Like the ACL is more that plant and change direction, where she didn't really plant, she kind of slid. So yeah, it was, I was surprised to see it come back. I hadn't seen the mechanism when we spoke about it last week. I just heard that they suspected minor MCL. And then I only went and checked the mechanism once I saw it. It came back as ACL, MCL. So she'll be in a brace for, I think, 4 to 6 to get the MCL to heal up. Once that's scarred up and doing well, they'll reconstruct the ACL. So big doubts over her for next year. But yeah, just want to shout her out because she got player of the match too. So she obviously had a worldie of a game playing at fullback there. So shout out to her. Look, the big ones from this week, probably Jamie Chapman. That just looked horrific. Her ankle got caught. She had 2 players on top of her at the time. And it just twisted the way you don't want it to twist. So like so many things on the table, like fibula fracture, Liz Frank fracture / injury because her foot kind of, got caught where the way you don't want it to get caught. She also had rotation. So you bring in like a syndesmosis injury, just not good. If she escapes that with anything, minor or back this season, then you buy a lotto ticket because that was just a horrific mechanism. So, I mean, hopefully it's not as bad as it looks, but yeah, I'm not counting my chickens at this point in time. Pauline Russabale, looked like a pretty nasty hamstring injury. So she'll multi-weeks, mate. The Titans are really, really struggling at the moment because they lost Paxton last week as well for the season. She's got a fractured fibula too. So yeah, they're in a bit of trouble from that perspective. The other one was Taylor Preston. That was quite an interesting mechanism. She got caught up, medial stress, but it was really like quick, but probably not a big motion arm. Like it didn't seem to be a big collapse, but she had to get medicabbed off. So I looked at it and I didn't think the force in the mechanism was that significant, but she obviously, I don't know whether she maybe MCL is probably your most likely, but maybe there is an ACL injury there. It's hard to judge off just pain alone, like looking at just the mechanism. I was thinking MCL, potentially ACL, potentially even patella instability as well. So something to watch out for there. Taylor Preston, she was leading the comp for kick meters as well. So very good season from her too with the boot and just all around in general. But a few significant ones in there in the NRLW, unfortunately, James.
Yeah, the one that's most worrying is Jamie Chapman's, isn't it? Like, you almost wonder if it's Liz Frank plus more. Like, she could be multi-fracture. It was pretty high trauma, that one. So that was, it gives you the ick in your stomach when you see stuff like that. So fingers crossed she gets good news and it's, better than worse in the prognosis there. Brien, we've covered all the injuries. We're going to launch into questions now very quickly. So I'm going to keep this trucking because we've got a few on the list tonight to get through, Brien. So thank you again for everyone for submitting them through the broadcast channel. Question 1, Brien, is about Geno Kearney and Carlo Oluwapu. What are the short-term and long-term risks for both of them? And can you give any insight on why there's such a big difference in the medical opinions on why Carl Oluwapu's coming in through, I think he's coming through Fogs at the moment, isn't he? Through Fogs Club, maybe Queensland Cup later in the season, depending on how it all goes. I've got a bit of another background story I might add to the mix here at the end, Brien, as well.
I love any Q Cup stories, mate. Like anything local footy, just sign me up. But the risks look like they've both got significant. They've both had significant neck surgery. The biggest risk is that when you fuse a segment in the neck, and both have had fusions. I think there was speculation that Oluwapu even had a disc replacement as well. But when you fuse it, I guess the main issue there is you all of a sudden have a motion segment or a segment of your neck that has no movement in it. So that can alter the forces that go through the rest of the neck and the spine, which can cause, problems with the discs. It can cause problems with fractures, these kind of things, some risks there. So I think there was, who was the Aussie front rower who was over in England, and why do I always forget names? He broke his neck, and he played for the Roosters. I can't believe I'm not remembering this, but he had fusions in his spine, in his neck, and he went in, copped a blow, and suffered fractures above and below.
Oh, that was
as well.
Mossy Masoe. Sorry.
That's it, Mossy Masoe.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, mate,
I was going to annoy me.
I'm sorry. I was sitting here like I've got to pause the recording and Google this. I can't believe I'm not thinking of it. So he had disc replacements. That there was questions about whether that contributed to his spinal fracture. So that's like the risks, right? Now, going to the medical opinions are different. That the Bulldogs had these medical opinions that Carlo Oluwapu can't play again because he's at risk of catastrophic injury if he plays. Whereas Carl has obviously had advice from his surgeon being like, no, you're safe to play. And I think the big thing here with anything medical, a lot of the time it all exists on a spectrum. Like if you put the Bulldogs doctors who wrote those reports on the stand and said, well, look, is there a chance that Oluwapu can play for another 15 years and not injure himself and be fine? They'd have to say yes, right? Because there is a chance. And it's very hard to quantify that percentage. So it just depends on how you want to frame it, right? I think you could look at it from a negative viewpoint and go, well, yeah, he is at catastrophic risk. But then if you take the glass half full, it's like, no, well, we've repaired it really well. And there's only it's only happened to very few players in the history of the game and those kind of things. So Yeah, like I think the biggest thing there is that you can kind of, depending on where you sit on that spectrum, the Bulldogs are obviously going to go for those medicos who sit on the end of the spectrum that suit them. And then the like Carlo up, who is like, and I see it all the time. Like, if I have an athlete come and see me who I'm like, look, I don't think it's a good idea if you play. I had a fast bowler recently who had a pars defect that was really playing up, which is a stress fracture in the spine for those playing along. And I'm like, look, it's not a good idea for you to bowl at the moment because of this, this, and this. He went and saw someone else who said, oh no, like, yeah, I'm happy for you to bowl. And of course, who's he going to listen to, right? Like, unless you're a really good salesman, an athlete's going to want to play. So yeah, it just depends where you sit on that spectrum and how you kind of frame it. Not much in medicine is like a definite, like we've seen Cooper Cronk play with a fractured scapula. We've seen Dylan Edwards play with a fractured foot, like in grand finals, those kind of things. So like, could you argue that there was risk of, catastrophic injury there potentially? But, if you frame it in the right way and you look at it at a glass half full kind of thing, you can kind of work it however it suits you best, I think.
Probably depends on the levels of the spine they're fusing as well, Brian. Like, I think when you're looking like lower down in the neck, there's less, a bit less risk than higher up in the neck there. So I don't know what levels they had fused as well. So whether they're, fairly high up, like if you're at like sort of, you can fuse C1, C2. You don't see it very much in the footy population. But if you're up at like 2, 3, is probably more concerning than sort of lower down in the levels there. And I do have a little update on Carl. Apparently he's pretty good in contact because my colleague who plays for the Finns down there, he said, yeah, I was doing like I had a calf cork, so I didn't really want to do any contact. So he's like, oh, I'll just duck out of contact. And they're like, oh no, you can do contact with Carl. And he's like, oh shit. And he's like, Carl just minced me for like a minute, an hour. Just
Mate,
doing
he's
contact
looking.
against him.
I went back and watched his game. He's looking
Yeah.
thick, like thick.
Is he? Yeah,
He's
good.
looking big. So he's put. I reckon they must have said, look, if you're going to keep playing, you got to put
We need
some
10,
thickness
15 on
on.
ya.
Yeah, you got
Yeah.
to put some thickness on because you can't be wiry. And yeah, he was a thick boy and played pretty well for his first game back. Like, didn't stand
Yeah.
out by any means, but also didn't didn't shy away from anything either. So I'll try and sit down and watch his game that he played this weekend as well if I
Yeah, it'd
can
be
at some
interesting.
point. But
Be
yeah, he's definitely
really,
looking
really
bigger.
interesting. Yeah, really interesting. Anyway, apparently goes good in contact. Not fun on the training paddock either. Second question, Brian, is about MCL injuries. They rarely require surgery, but we saw Nat Butcher's having it. Is that because he's injured it for the third time this year?
Yeah, I think like at that point you've got scar tissue on scar tissue on scar tissue, and your risk is that your MCL is stretched. The reason that you often don't need it is because it heals really well, it tightens up, it stiffens up really well, it scars up really well, and provides stability. But if you have stretched that ligament 3 times, the risk is that it's just not holding anything in place anymore. It's just generally looser. So you've got to go in to kind of tighten that up. So yeah, that's the main reason. He's had 3 times scar tissue on top of scar tissue. It's more than likely stretched beyond it actually doing its job. So yeah, it needs surgery at that point.
Yeah, nicely summarised. Next one is, are you concerned about Isaiah Yeo after Ivan Cleary's comments during the week? Is it worth holding on to him for Supercoach purposes with head-to-head finals looming? Bit risky, Brian, isn't it, with Isaiah Yeo and the shoulder subluxation, I think?
Yeah, they said, I mean, look, mate, try and trust anything that comes out of Penrith. They are the kings of smother when it comes to any kind of injury stuff. So Ivan's comments, yeah, I put maybe 5% in, trust in them, in that he was like, oh, look, we'll see. Yeah, they are just like, I just have given up a long time ago and trying to predict what they do at this point in time. Like, they're now in the top 4. Are they going to, swing for the fences and try and, hold on to that top 4 spot? I'm not really sure. So yeah, in terms of holding on to him at this point in time, like, I just feel like you can't trade out warm bodies at this point. Like, my kind of take is, if Isaiah Yeo is your worst player, or your your most risky player at this point in time, then you're doing really, really well. So if Isaiah Yeo is the most risky, or you don't still have a Keon or a Dylan Lucas or, whoever, Hamole Alofiana sitting there, and it's only Isaiah Yeo and you've got like 5 trades, sure. Get rid of him, get on to somebody who doesn't have that injury hanging over his head. But I wouldn't be spending one of my last 2 or 3 trades on him yet, because he could come back in round 20, let's say 25, 26, and be a valuable, healthy number for you in those weeks when we've seen the carnage so far. So what about you, mate? Would you hold on to Yo at this point in time, or how are you feeling about it?
Yeah, I probably would. It wouldn't be a super exciting hold because we know it's missionary with the lights off, isn't it? With holding Isaiah Yeo, but really, in the scheme of things, I think you probably got bigger fishes to fry in your team if you needed to move him on. He's probably not going to give you the sort of the apex that he has done in the past, though. So if you had the trades, I'd move it off. If you don't, then I think you just sit him and you'll see him back by the end of the year, I dare say. So that'll be just another number to have later on. Next question, Brian's about Connor Tracy, someone who might be actually surprisingly back next week, according to Serraldo's comments. Why do you think so quickly, given that, I guess, friend of the show, Phil Gould, painted a more negative picture not too many weeks ago? I think he sort of was like, oh, we don't know how it's going to go, but that's really favourable news. I'm a bit surprised to hear that, actually.
Mate, this is just a Gus special. We love him, right? For the fact of
The best.
how much he shares. Just insane the detail that he shares at times about these injuries, but also frustrating when it's obviously not what's actually happening, because he was like, 3 weeks complete rest, just can't do anything. And then that weekend, Connor was out kicking balls in the warm-up and stuff, and I'm like, well, is it really complete rest, or what are we talking about here? So yeah, I just think just wasn't as bad. You assume it just wasn't as bad as Gus initially kind of alluded to, because he was pushing to play this week, Connor Tracy. So that means he's been at training doing stuff, right? Which that's 10 days after the injury, which is not 3 weeks of complete rest. So I love Gus. Keep doing it, mate. Even if it ends up being not quite accurate, I still love the detail. That kind of stuff is like porn to me. So yeah, I'm not saying don't do it, but that's how he's coming back so quickly, is maybe not the most bang on information.
Yeah, it's good news. It's a good news story, though, for the Bulldogs. I think that's really exciting. He's had a really good season too, so hopefully see him back fit and firing. Next one's about Tino Fa'asua Malawi. He's due back next week approximately, but do you think there's any chance he gets shut down for the season with the Titans? There's also rumblings about the contract status and whether he's going to test himself on the market. It's not a fun place to be at the Titans at the moment, is it? Or let alone as a fan for the 2 fans that they have down there at the Gold Coast.
Mate, I think he's for sure 2 things. I think he's definitely coming back this season. That's just the feeling that I get at this point in time. He's doing a lot at training already. So I'm thinking 70% this week coming, 30% the week after. So I think this week or the week after is when I'm expecting him to return. And then on top of that, I'm also expecting him to sign the biggest money offer at the Perth Bears that you can imagine. So I think both of those things will happen. What about you, mate?
Yeah, I probably would put him this week more likely. He's that sort of guy, hey. He plays through things. You would have seen them go down to the Bunnies this week and be like, well, I need to show up and put my best foot forward. And any good tape he can put out is money in the bank as well. So I think there's that sort of incentive there for him. Next question, Brian's about North Queensland. So I guess the question is there an injury crisis at North Queensland? We've talked about the Bunnies a little bit in the past, and does this maybe justify their poor performance? But it might be a bit overlooked, their injury crisis in North Queensland. Do you think this rings true, Brian, or is this a bit of hyperbole here, a bit of mayo on this story, do you reckon, for a struggling
Yeah,
team?
look, I think North Queensland, like many clubs, have copped a pretty rough run this year. But the question was, does it get overlooked in the media compared to South, for example? You will not find a Queenslander more staunch than me on the media just focuses on New South Wales and they don't get it, James. These kind of things. But I think this is the one time where I'm like, no club compares to Souths. Like, it's just not even, no one is in the ballpark. It's just not even close. Like, if you, like, I know the stats that I put out.
Finns aren't that far behind, to be fair
Yeah.
as well. Like, you guys have had a rotten injury run with high-profile players.
Yep.
I
And
don't
I
know.
think,
Like, I think
I just
it's
think
fair.
those numbers that I put out don't illustrate that like quality of player, right? But for the Rabbitohs to be like nearing 100 games in front, like they're at 200 and something, and the next closest is like, I think they're 220 or something, and the next closest is 140 or 150. Like, that is just an immense gap. Like, that is so large, it is crazy. So look, you won't. I'm happy to tell you, the Finns have been hard done by on the injury front for sure. But I certainly wouldn't say that they come close to South, and I don't think North Queensland do either. But I also do recognise that the media definitely focuses on those Sydney clubs, for different things. But that's where that's what sells papers, mate. That's what gets clicks.
That's just where it ends up, isn't it? That's the thing, is like the bigger clubs get more of the coverage, and that's just, it's very media, very Sydney centric as well, the competition. Let's be fair about that. So that's how it sort of comes to be. Next question, Brian, is would the cold weather from Brisbane to Melbourne have anything to do with the hamstring injuries? We saw it with Herbie Farnworth the other week, potentially. They do vigorous warm ups. It's a bit tinfoil hatty, but do you think there's any credence to potentially the colder weather, Brisbane to Melbourne?
Mate, if we go with pure science, there is data that shows that soft tissue strains occur slightly more frequently in colder weather. The
There you go.
decreased blood flow to the muscles, decreased power output, tendons become stiffer, this kind of thing. But I think what I would say is that the change in temperature from Brisbane to Melbourne is not significant enough for it to be like, I think it's more like, say, someone playing in Brisbane versus, going over to Chicago or something like that, playing in those kind of things. I think it has to be quite a significant jump before I'd start to consider it too much. So yeah, no, I do think, like, just out of interest in general, there does seem to be a slight increase as the weather gets colder, but it's big jumps. It's a lot colder rather than Brisbane to Melbourne.
Yeah, very good. So a little bit tinfoily, but not too much. Next question, Brian's about Dan Gagai. He didn't kick goals the other day for the Knights. Why was he not kicking goals? That was a weird one. I missed that sort of
Yeah,
update there for Gags.
I even was like, because I saw Cogger kick goals, and I was like, oh, obvious answer is Cogger just wasn't in the team, because, like, I just lose track of who Adam O'Brien is starting in the halves. So I, like, just off the top of my head had been like, oh, Cogger hadn't played, but Cogger had been playing. So I was like, oh, that's weird. And then I remember Gags got the cork. So I was like, maybe it was a cork, but they had the bye. So what's going on? Eagle Eye Brien over here, love referring to myself in the third person, but went and checked. Gags had a thigh sleeve on his, I'm going to get this wrong, but it was either, I think it was the right. It was the opposite side to the one that he got the cork on. So I wonder whether he had like a, minor groin, minor quad, minor hammy, something like that, because he had not been wearing that sleeve in previous games. So we're about to talk about the sleeves in a second, about why they're a bit of a G up, but also the fact that that was the first time that he'd worn it makes me think that he's got some sort of niggle. So something to watch out for there.
Yeah, good call. I guess on that point about the sleeves, like the sort of compression sleeves, how effective are those hamstring or thigh guards that you see, even calves as well, many NRL players wearing? Are they a gimmick, or are they genuinely preventative?
Mate, mostly placebo, to be honest. It's like, do they make you feel better when you run out there? Does, like, compression kind of make some people feel more confident in those kind of things? And your confidence running out there is a massive thing. So when I say placebo, I'm not saying they're completely useless, because, like, a player's confidence running out onto the field in their injured body part, whatever it is huge. We have surveys that we get athletes to fill out, and we score them and on their mental preparedness, on their mental sort of confidence around that injury. And if they don't score well enough, it doesn't matter what physical boxes they're ticking. If they are mentally not ready, that's a big thing as well. So I think it's more, what I would say is it's more a mental thing than a physical thing. I think the physically it doesn't actually do much to prevent you from injuring it again, but mentally it kind of can make you feel a bit more confident about it, which is positively correlated with a lower injury risk.
Yeah, that's a pretty good summary there, Brian. I don't have any other things I want to add on to that. Next question is a bit of a one from across overseas here, NFL. So the NFL put some restrictions on smelling salts. So people, I guess players, that is, inhaling smelling salts this season. Is it widely used in the NRL? What are the pros and cons of the old smelling salts there? You can probably give a bit of context to why the NFL have put restrictions on it, whereas, the players still can sort of do whatever they want. It's a bit of a weird sort of media release, wasn't it, how it all came to be?
Yeah. I think it was a bit of a non-story because the NFL banned teams providing it, but players can still use it of their own accord. So effectively, it just means like teams can't go out and buy smelling salts, have them there and offer them to players. The players have to go out, buy it themselves, and then have it there and use it. And I assume they can give it to the guys on the sideline and be like, here, can you hold on to this for me? It's mine. I've bought it. You know what I mean? So it's a PR move, to be honest with you, because it still can be used. So in terms of, is it widely used in the NRL? We've seen it it was, I think, pre-game Origin. We saw guys getting up there and smelling in the bucket and those kind of things. So they do use them. It's effectively a very, very high, I'm going to get this wrong, but it's like menthol or, that kind of thing where it's like smelling really, really strong eucalyptus or Vicks or something like that. And it kind of sparks you up and it's supposed to get you fired up and ready to go and those kind of things. Where the main issues come around is that in the old days, and when I say the old days, unfortunately, it still is a practice in some places. I haven't seen it necessarily used in the NRL, but what they used to do is if a player was a bit drowsy after, say, a potential concussion, they would use the smelling salts to kind of, stir them back up and try and dampen the symptoms of that concussion. So that's the main kind of, I think, reason why it was banned in the NFL. Was that, they didn't want the suggestion that it could be used to kind of perk players up after a potential concussion and have players point back and be like, oh, no, I was concussed there, but I got given smelling salts and that kind of, forced me back out onto the field. The pros, and there's not a lot of science behind it. It's just more, once again, a bit like the hamstring guards and stuff. Do you like using it? I say to people, ask me about it all the time. I'm like, look, if you use it and it makes you feel good and you like the way it fires you up before you go out in the field, for sure. But it's not, I wouldn't say it gives you any performance benefits. There hasn't been anything like that shown as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, so my understanding of it, I remember having to go at one, this age ago, 12 years ago, and it smells like really strong Windex, if you know what I mean. So any sort of commercial cleaner or, just cleaning product. And I think they sort of talk about, the science behind, being such a strong nasal irritant is it actually drives your inhalation reflex along. So you try to breathe up and breathe more in. So that's kind of the point of it. So it's meant to spark you up and spark your breathing rate getting a bit higher, which again pumps up your adrenaline, pumps up your heart rate, probably puts you in go mode a little bit more than you probably would have been otherwise. That's why they were used widely for the combat sports as well. Last one, Brian, is for the Broncos and the Dolphins. Bit of a vibe check at the moment. How would we be feeling about the finals chances? I guess Broncos with Hunt at 7, maybe Billy Walters at 6 and Corey Pakes at 9, maybe Arthur's replacing Cobbo. Are people writing them off too quickly if they've got a sort of a setup like that? It's not the worst setup, is it, for a second string sort of type prospect?
Mate, I tell you what, I would love the Finns forward pack to be that good as a second, a second run of once you lose a few guys. Look, I'll cover the Finns and I'll throw to you for the Bronx. But from the Finns perspective, mate, I had a lot of people. I was curled around the toilet bowl all of yesterday, so they were saying welfare check, but for the wrong reasons because I needed a welfare check just on my my state in terms of my sickness. But welfare check wise, you never like seeing your team lose by 60, but for the Finns, I don't know how there isn't a fan out there who isn't just so stoked with how this season has gone, because we've lost like the 4 most important forwards to us. And we're actually playing worse when we kind of had more players because we lost those guys. And I was like, we've seen what's happened in previous seasons when we've had injuries. We've just absolutely shit the bed in the second half of the season. We've gone to, to dirt, and it's just not good. Mate, we've put on, how many times have we scored 50 this year? Like 3-4 times or something like that.
Yeah.
And maybe 40 a time as well. Like, got great for and against. Like, yeah, last night didn't go all that well. And to be honest with you, even if they make finals, they're not gonna, like, they can't with the forward pack they have guys who are like in the kindest way possible. They're Q Cup forwards. They're not NRL level forwards. They've got Kurt Donahue starting at 13 and playing 80 minutes at 13. Like, and I love Kurt Donahue. He's an absolute weapon. But there's no, if you'd have told me that at the start of the year that we'd be relying on Kurt Donahue playing 80 minutes at 13, I'll be like, our season is completely cooked. So the fact that we're even in anywhere with a shot, that, like, yeah, I'm so happy with where they're at, even after the loss yesterday. And it's not even just a happy to be here kind of thing. It's just a being, I guess, realistic about where we are, missing so many forwards. And like, now we're missing Herbie for a month, who is like kind of our forwards aren't dominating, throw the ball to Herbie and hammer and see how it goes. Kind of, we lose that as well. So yeah, I'm still stoked. I don't think I've never thought they were gonna, do much damage in the finals, but I just think if they can kind of finish the year half good and then get some boys back next year, like I've said it, I think if they can kind of replicate this and then have some good forwards next year, they can absolutely finish top 4. So maybe that's me drinking the Kool-Aid, but that's where I'm at with the Finns at the moment. How are you feeling about the Bronx, mate?
Yeah, it's a tricky one, isn't it? But I guess for the Broncos, for people that probably have forgotten, Jock Madden, who's a logical half replacement, he's gone with a pec injury, so he's nowhere near.
He came back to Q Cup.
Oh, did he come back to Cup?
This weekend.
Oh,
Yeah, literally his first
okay.
game
So
back. Yeah.
there's an option. Okay, righto. So there's obviously that, and I think Blake Moser was a shoulder reco, so he's done and dusted for the year, isn't he? So he's done for the year. I guess Corey Pakes and Tyson Smoothie are probably the 9 replacements. They're not bad replacements, really. I think they're probably an upgrade on Billy anyway. But, if you line up with Hunt at 7, Walters at 6, I don't mind that. Like, it's, for a second-rate halves combination, that's not a bad shout. Whether Jock Madden maybe slides in there at 7 or 6 and Hunt stays at 6 or plays 7, whatever your combo looks like there. Maybe Walters stays at 9 or 14. Maybe Pakes comes back and plays some bigger minutes. And then Jesse Arthurs and Karapani replacing Cobbo is a pretty straightforward one. I don't know what they're going to do with Dean Mariner because he was a bit unders on the weekend. So whether he'll get shipped on for one of those two guys, they're not losing a lot there. But I guess when you add it up, like, Pierre Curie's still on the sideline. Cobbo, Mem, Reynolds, Xavier Wilson broke his arm last week. Ben Takura's, unclear when he's going to be back. And then Jock Madden's only just come back in Cup. It's starting to stack up there a little bit for Brisbane, I think. So it'll be a bit of a watch and wait. And their run's not super easy either. So they really, every time they come up against the Storm hump them. They just say, "Oh, we're going to win today," and we just never beat them. So we are them in the final round, but we're desperately clinging on to where are we at the moment? We're desperately I've got the W in front of me there, so the NRL. So they're desperately clinging to 6 on for and against over the Sharks, and the Finns are 1 win behind them. So it's going to be very, very squeezy till the end of the year. I think, to your point, Brian, if they do make the 8, they aren't going to do much damage from there. I don't believe. Like it's really hard to get deep in the finals from that far back with a team that you've already started stacking injuries up with. Like, I think you've got to be fully healthy if you're going to make a really big run at that time of year where you've got to go back to back to back to back.
Yeah, I completely agree. My question to you is, would you rather Billy at 6 or Tony Staggs at 6? Because you've got Jesse Arthurs and Karapani who you can bring in. So one to replace Cobbo, one to slide into centre for Staggs. Which way would you rather go with those two?
It's a good question. Staggs has never played 6, has he? To my
Well, he's
knowledge.
played for Tonga,
Has
I
he?
think. Yeah, for Tonga.
Has he really?
Yeah.
Okay, I just must have missed that.
He slotted into 6 on the week, like on Thursday night when
So
both
maybe.
of them went down. So
Yeah, well, if it's just like, okay, you're gonna just run it heaps.
That's
I don't mind it.
like an Ezra
That's
Mam
really the
kind of
play, isn't
role.
it?
You know what I mean? Just like,
Yeah, or
do you
even
get him to
it's
play
even
that?
more Munster-esque, isn't it? It's
Yes.
just like, okay, you just get the ball and you run heaps, or you play short, and that's kind of your two options that you do and you play. Because defensively he's good enough, like he could handle it there and make the read. So it's probably not a bad call actually. I don't mind it because
Because
you got
what I
some good
can tell
outside
you,
back
mate,
covers
is
there.
Billy
Very vibey.
Walters is just going to run it, mate, because he'll be dumb in all day.
Well, you never know. You never know. I don't know what's gonna happen there. There's still,
Uh,
it might actually work really well for my Supercoach team. So I still got Corey Pates as my second
oh, I know.
hooker. So that could really come up trumps for me if he can get some 50-minute games under his belt again. That'd be great.
Mate, I'm 1 or 2 injuries away from really relying on Talon De Silva's 15 points. So, yeah, I understand the Corey Pakes getting him in there. On that note, mate, Supercoach Corner, let's get into it. Supercoach head-to-head finals are here. Week 1 is done. Look, if you want to sharpen up and make the right calls when it counts, trades captains, your 17th man, you need the right tools. Baller has the projections, the base plus power stats, captaincy and ownership data, and everything you need for Supercoach strategy. Best of all, it's all free. So sign up at baller.live, which is BALLR.live, and get access to every tool you need to finish the season strong. James, I went back and I did it. I was very jealous of those baller boys talking about their their captaincy stats over the year using the tools over at Baller to kind of help them. I was like, I feel like mine hasn't been great. So they were all talking like above or below 100 was kind of where they were kind of talking. I went back and calculated mine, mate, 85. So like, it's
Oh, yeah,
not
that's actually
been.
not bad.
I like
I
it's
think
it.
that's okay.
I was surprised it was as high as it was, but also
Yeah.
what I didn't realize is I have utilized the VC heavily this year. Like I think I think I've used it 7 times is what I
That's
calculated.
crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
so pretty much earlier in the season, whenever I got over like 90 to 100, I was just looping, which has worked out pretty. Like I think I'm ranked okay, like 5,000 or whatever. So it's been all right, but I think yeah, like it's. I guess the sad thing is that at the start of the season I could at least get a VC right, whereas now I'm not even getting VCs. VCs or Cs are not going well for me. So I need the baller stats. I haven't been listening enough. Like I only started using it sort of halfway through the year as they started getting things out, but they'll be up and ready to go. Like they're up and ready to go at the moment for Supercoach finals, but then they'll have even more cool shit, leading into next year as well. So I'm just psyched to put my hands in the data and just kind of be like, guide me, because 85 is okay, but it's certainly not the 100 plus that those boys are talking about. So, mate, hit me with how you went this week, and if you did know how to use a boost and trades, and you had trades left, what would you be doing?
Yeah, so this week was 13.52 for me. I looped Cleary, so I just saw that, close to 100 points and was like, yeah, I'm just going to loop that because I was initially sitting with the captaincy on Zach Lomax based on the ball of projections as well. I think those two guys were nearly the top 2 projected, I believe, Brien. So, everyone says, oh, I missed on Teddy this week. I wasn't even on the radar for Teddy this week, so I would never have picked him as a skipper. So, when I saw him score that big, I was like, oh, far out. That wasn't even in the ballpark of my sort of planning for how I was going to VC and C. So anyway, the one that was like looking back every week, Brien, when I traded in Angus Crichton, I was like so due for some attacking stats. And when he put up 41 in a shootout, man, I've been devastated with bringing him in this year. It's been really disappointing compared to years gone by. And really, the other thing that I'm disappointed about is not getting on the Sam Walker bandwagon because the throbbing Sam Walker's doing throbbing things. Like, man, he's box office. He's so good. I know we sip it and sip it large with Sam Walker, but God, he's good to watch. Like he just doesn't care. He's just like, I'll kick it here. I'll throw a rainbow this way or rainbow that way. Like it's just pure rugby league with Sam Walker, and I just
Mate,
love it. So
don't the Titans just have to sign up the Walker brothers and get Sam Walker at
whatever the black
halfback?
check is that gets him there, they have to spend it. They need to, they need to give him half of surfers if they need to. Like,
Q1.
give him Q1. Yeah, give him Wet and Wild as well if he wants Wet and Wild. I don't know. Like make some deals, get some stuff going for Sam Walker. So yeah, I don't know. Like It's just so good to watch. The one thing that's come up trumps for me this week, maybe, and I'm sort of counting my chickens probably a bit too early here, Brian, but Connor Tracy might be back. Corey Pakes might be back. Karapani might be back on deck. So that's pretty handy given that I only had 18 active players this week and 0 trades left because I've cooked my final boost scenario. So that was something on the up there. If I did have trades, Brian. So all things considered, by week and all, Huddy Young is just got to be in your team, doesn't he? Like the Raiders they're just doing it all and they're just playing so well. I think Huddy Young has just got to be a must-have. Goal kicking Critter, I quite like with the tough draw. He's been scoring really consistent points over the last few weeks. He just hasn't been below 60 for the last 4 weeks, I think, or 5 weeks or thereabouts. He's been really consistent. And the Bulldogs are going to be sound and solid and they're going to be in most games. I think he's really taken onus of that team, in that leadership role. I think you're seeing some really, really, really high level footy out of Steve Crichton at the moment. So he's someone that I actually don't mind. He is owned at about 7%. So he's not stupidly low ownership, not stupidly high, but his floor's just so good with the goal kicking, Brian, isn't it? That's the thing. And, last week, what have we gone? We've gone 100 this week, 65, 64, 71, 64, 69, going back to round 14. It's pretty bloody good. Like you're not missing out there. And he hasn't scored yet, no tries in that before this round just gone, I think, either. So that's the thing is like he's not a prolific try scorer and he's still putting up really, really sound points with the goal kicking and all the just base stats that he's getting through there. So I really like Stephen Crichton there, despite the tough draw. And the last one, bit of wide base stuff, bit of Queensland spirit here is Jermaine Hopgood starting to get some weird more minutes again. So I don't know what's going on there because he was nursing the back thing for a long time and all of a sudden it gets to the end of the year. They're like, oh, well, just break your back for us then, I guess. Jermaine,
And
I
a
don't know what's
prop.
going on there. Like, yeah, just put him in the middle, just being a pig. So it's just like, just do some pig work and get some base stats up, which he does. It's the thing about Jamal Hopgood is man can work. So yeah, that was an interesting one that his minutes been up weirdly. He's scoring really quite consistently. When the minutes are there for him, he scores points. So I don't mind those three. They're not mega vibey, but there'd be ones that I'd be looking at if I had a few up my sleeve. Ryan, what about yourself?
Yeah, mate, 13-24 for me. I was tossing up so many captain options. I think like Nico, Cleary,
Campbell, maybe.
Jaden
Yeah.
Campbell, and of course I picked Lomax. So fantastic. Just can't get it right. Just cannot get captain right. So, look, I brought in Tommy Turbo this week. I am pretty happy with that. I think getting through that, scoring 50 something. Yeah, sweet. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. Come on, Tommy, do some things for me over the next 4 weeks would be nice. If I somehow had trades, mate, there's two guys, Latrell and Sam Walker. For me, I just think they're the guys. I think someone like now, to be fair, I haven't looked at Sammy Walker's draw as to know like what is going on there, but I just know someone like Dylan Edwards has like a really tough draw over the next few weeks. Like I wouldn't be against kind of trying to pot it up in like a head-to-head final. I think maybe the Roosters have the Bulldogs next week or something
Yeah,
like
they
that.
do. So
So
it's a bit
maybe,
mixed. It's like it's Bulldogs, Eels, Storm, Rabbits. So it's real mix. It's
yeah,
two
right,
really tough ones and two really easy ones.
yeah.
So
But
actually the Eels
yeah,
aren't really a cakewalk anymore. They're playing all right. The Eels, like they're putting up a bit of fight.
I just think those two guys are just throbbing at the moment. Like Latrell today looked awesome.
Locked in, hey. Oh, yeah, he's locked
Like
in.
if
Yeah.
I didn't, if I still had a trade and I had to pick between him and Turbo this week, I'd pick Latrell. Even and Latrell's got a buy in there, but I just think Latrell has the capacity to just get in the mood over the next few weeks where he's like, we're not getting the spoon. And Wayne just whispering sweet nothings in his ear, mate, just getting him. Yeah, like that just gives me tingles. I'm very, very excited to watch what Latrell can do over the next month if he can stay fit, which would be nice. I don't have the same faith in Anthony Seibold somehow getting the best out of Turbs, but we'll see. I'm hoping so. But that's my thing. I just think Latrell, he's owned by like no people. So I just think he's just a fantastic. And that round 27 game, mate, he is the captaincy option of all captaincy options. Like he's either going to score -16 or 250 in that game. Like it could go anywhere. So yeah, all about that. And see, the other component too is that they're going to be wanting to feed AJ. What's AJ needs 3 tries maybe. I think he's
Oh.
209 and he needs 213, so he needs 214. So yeah, like he needs 4 tries in the next 4 games. I think Latrell's going to be looking to do that, and if it comes down to the last week against the Chooks, like Latrell is just going to be like,
that'd be good.
give me the ball left. I need, because like oh man, imagine all the Rabbits fans running onto the field against the Chook, like. Just you could not script it any better. So I actually hope he doesn't hit it before the end of the year, before round 27. So that can be on the table. Man, owning Latrell for that game would be sick. So that would be my suggestion, is if you have enough trades to own Latrell for round 27 and Alex Johnson is in striking distance of the which he is already, but yeah, just get around it, because yeah, it's exciting stuff.
Yeah, it's awesome, isn't it? Like, the try scoring record is it's insane, really, when you think about it. Like, it might get done eventually, but far out. Like, it's prolific for so long. Like, and we don't see guys getting in the 20s per year very often anymore. It just doesn't happen that much.
100%. And wingers, mate, with injuries, like, there are so many, like, wingers are so big now. They do, like, bigger, faster, stronger. They get injured, I would say more than like an Alex Johnson. There's not many Alex Johnston frames rolling around on the wing these days. So look, I hear all the catch and fall merchant stuff. I get it, but mate, like, I would, if I was Alex Johnson, I would give 2 shits of whatever. Like, if I can say I've scored the most tries in the NRL history,
Ever.
man, say whatever you want about me.
Yeah.
I don't even care.
Too
Like,
bad.
mate, like, just that is some serious, serious swag. So yeah, hopefully he
Mate, I
does it.
reckon,
Hopefully he does
mate,
it.
when Fox drops all the tries, Alex Johnson, I'm watching. You better believe I'm watching that. Like, if someone's like, "Oh, it'll take you 2 hours to get through," I'll be like, "No worries."
And
Hook
also,
it to
did you
me.
see
I'll
the
be all
thing with
good.
him? And I love this. I think any of the PNG boys in the comp should have this in their contract. Alex Johnson signed his contract for X number of years, but also can
A clause.
negotiate with
Yep.
PNG.
Both.
Amazing.
Both.
Amazing. Xavier
All
Coates,
4.
re-sign with the Storm, but leave it open for him to negotiate with PNG.
Yep. Where's Reece Martin? I want Reece Martin in there as well. I want a goal kicking edge back for Owen still, if he's still getting around in Super League.
Lockie
Is he still
Lamb,
getting
mate.
around? I don't
Get
know.
Lockie Lamb, Adrian
Lockie
Lamb
Lamb in
as
there.
coach. Oh, far
Lots
out.
of options.
Yeah,
Lots
so
of
good.
options.
Yeah, I just
Jack
that's
DeBellin's he
so,
gonna get a gig over there? 'Cause he's had a few games for the top squad.
mate, just the vibes. The vibes around that, like, we're signing you
Mm.
up, but look, you can go and be player number 1 for PNG. I'm like, that is so much
Sick.
respect for South doing that. Like, that is
Yeah.
just so cool.
Yeah,
So
it's
cool.
awesome.
All right, guys, that is a wrap for this week. If you like the pod, give us a review, recommend to a friend. Yeah, James, I think we've done really well. I said last week was our flu game. I think this week was like our, I don't know, just our crap in the guts game, but we got through it, mate. So well done. We will go so we can both get some valued shut-eye. But as always, up the mighty, mighty Redcliffe Dolphins.